that you need to address. Okay, our candidates for District 6 are Philip Barnes, Incumbent, endorsed by the Republican and listening parties. Angeline Franzese, endorsed by the Conservative and We the People parties. And Sylvia Fox, write-in candidates. You have 3 minutes for an opening statement. First up, determined by the draw, was Sylvia Fox. Next will be Phil Barnes, and third will be Angie Franzese. Sylvia, you may come up. Or
thank you, Judy. Good evening. My name is Sylvia Fox, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum, and all of you for coming out to listen. I believe in open, responsible, and accountable government, and I believe right now our county government is broken. Residents, you and me, are being deliberately cut out of the legislative process. Important decisions are being made behind closed doors and in secret. I'm against the gas storage project while Phil Barnes still supports it. And many of you here tonight also oppose the pro-gas resolution, the resolution railroaded through the legislature by Dennis Fagan in just 4 days in June. But I want to be clear, the resolution is not the problem, it's the process, which is clearly broken. In 2004, Dennis Fagan said a $140 million pipeline project would increase property values by $4.2 million. But pipelines historically decrease property values. In 2014, the pipeline, assessed at $22 million, isn't paying any property taxes, zero. Instead, the company pays $146,000 a year to the Schuyler County Industrial Development Authority. This case should make us all wary when Mr. Fagan promises us a $25 million increase to our tax base for the Crestwood's gas storage project, but didn't reveal to us that Energy, and now Crestwood, was also offered a big tax break in 2011, which included a payment to Scoped. Wanting to give Crestwood a tax break is appalling. It would only take one accident, one incident, and all of our properties around Seneca Lake will be devalued. We should have been consulted. But the legislature never asked us, and that's precisely why so many people are so angry. But there are other issues of poor decision-making. The county decided not to install sprinklers in the shared services building as a cost-cutting measure. When it burned down, insurance covered it. But now our insurance has doubled, and we're paying $200,000 more every year in insurance costs, and that's now with the new sprinkler system. That's just one example. It's not something our elected officials are advertising in the midst of all their finger-pointing and claims that this fiscal problem is not their fault. And if you wonder why I'm so specifically critical of Dennis Fagan, the chair of the legislature, even though I'm running against incumbent Phil Barnes this election, here it is. Phil Barnes has voted with Dennis Fagan approximately 400 times per year, and only twice, 2 times in 4 years, and 1,600 resolutions, has he voted independently. So who is Phil Barnes representing? So I can tell you that I promise to listen, to make decisions in public, to make decisions fairly, to represent your issues, interests, not corporate interests, and not the interests of the chair, just you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay. Philip Barnes.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, members of the League of Women Voters, for sponsoring this. How many years has this been going on? It seems like forever. I want to thank you. It was before you 4 years ago. There's been a lot of changes in those 4 years. The county has cut 10% of its workforce since 2011, basically on combining departments, cutting staff, and consolidations. We are the leader in shared services, working with other counties like Chemung County for weights and measures, exploring other shared services, some new initiatives yet to be announced. We are taking the lead to work with the towns for code enforcement, recycling on a county-wide basis. It's sad when you get kids that grow up in Rochester come down to their cottage on Seneca Lake, and all of a sudden they don't know what to do with their trash. So we need to be looking at venues like that where people can have the same services across the county. One agenda items are now what county government is all about. It's a team approach, not just certain personal agendas, but possible goals that a candidate has to look out for what's in the best interest for the whole county. I probably am the only candidate that knows where Coons Corners is, Little Russia, and the Kiklowitz Road. Their input in the county are just as important as people that live in the town of Hector or Seneca Lake property owners. I recently achieved a goal by getting fraud investigations and independent audits conducted of social services. That's as a result of my 40 years in public service and law enforcement, that this is something that needed to be done in Schuyler County. It was the only additional position put in the 2014 budget, and as a result of that, we've saved over $500,000 in taxpayers' dollars by making arrests and fraud detection, whether it be in workers' compensation, Medicaid, Medicare fraud, disability, you name it. I was a leader of getting the county property to be a smoke-free campus on all county properties. I've taken the lead in attempting to get video documentation of all county meetings available for live streaming, but as one legislator recently stated, only one person has mentioned it, and for the $10,000, is it worth the expense when there's not more interest in the topic? I liked it when investigations, certain claims that I could see, and again, I'm a proponent of it, because I recently did a lot of investigation and allegations and meeting minutes regarding the gas storage. What I found was there was a lack of one-sided or a two-sided investigation. It was primarily all one-sided, but it was a good measurement to find out who is saying what is being said, and it's also a good measurement for people like tonight, where you could look and see what's happened over the last several years and who's doing their job. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Angie?
Good evening. I'm a graduate of Watkins Glen Central School and SUNY Geneseo. I worked for Roswell and Buffalo and for Cornell University. My husband and I have owned and operated a business in Watkins Glen for over 28 years, and we have 4 beautiful daughters. I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, the Schuyler County Lodging Association, and the Montour Moose Club. I was a legislator for 16 years and chairman from 1992 to 96. I'm proud of my record. It shows I listen to my constituents, I use common sense when spending tax dollars, and I know how county government operates. I help to get the installment payments for a county, town, school, and also delinquent taxes to make it easier for our taxpayers to pay their bills. I sponsor the resolution that allows you, the public, time to speak at every legislature meeting. And I help to bring 911 to our county to save lives. I chair the Tri-County Planning and Economic Development Board for 2 years. I will work to retain our current businesses and promote the growth of new businesses for our county. Our county needs a viable economy, one in which we can retain our youth, bring jobs, and add to our tax base. I chaired the New York State Association of County Chairmen, and I led the county's fight against state mandates. I want to continue that battle for our county again because it will lower property taxes. I have learned a lot from our past history. In 1992, Schuyler County had a $300,000 deficit, a 0 fund balance, and it was at 100% of its taxing limit. Things could not be any worse for the county. I chair the new board that paid back the deficit, restored a healthy fund balance. We kept the county operating and maintained the infrastructure without raising property taxes, to the amazement of the county auditors. Our county is in trouble. A report from the State Controller's Office confirms that Schuyler County is under significant fiscal stress. Again. This chart here shows you basically what has been happening to our fund balance. If you could see the numbers, you would see that in 2006, the county had $8 million in the bank for fund balance. And by the end of 2013, there was only $2 million left. Schuyler has not had the recommended fund balance since 2009, Fund balance is very important. Many have encouraged me to run because they are not happy with what is going on. I am running because I care, and I want the future we deserve. I have the experience to help our county. I'm offering voters a choice on November 4th. I stand for protecting our environment, solid business growth, and sound financial decisions. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Questions? We will start with Sylvia, and this is a long one, so you want me to repeat it as we go along. Just do it. As part of the legislator's role in safeguarding county assets, how would you go about both ensuring not only that you have timely access to financial reports, and equally important, have the ability to understand the county's financial position and true cash position at any given time? Sylvia?
Thank you, Judy. I'm gonna try this. This microphone. Let me know if you cannot hear me. You know, I think that the simple answer to this is a question of following proper procedures from the top down, from the legislature, and that means open meetings and transparency with documents. And that's a big part of what I stand for. But I think when we're talking about money, I think that as legislators, we have to understand exactly how to read a budget. I've been a journalist for many years, and I've had to learn how to read a budget. And we also have to get our people trained. But I think that what's going, I'm not an insider. So I will speak to this generally. That I think that what we need to do is make sure that our people are trained from the bottom up, and the legislature is also trained in terms of being able to read our budgets and understand our systems. And I commend Michael LaSalle, who last week attended training for our treasurer's office as a legislator, and I would be glad to do that as well. I think I have the capability to understand a budget, to read a budget, and to make recommendations.
Thank you. Phil?
I have to say that within the last 2.5 years, the county has turned a corner and is making great strides in achieving openness. It was sad until about 6 months ago that the sheriff couldn't look at a line item in his budget to find out how much money he had, whether he had enough money to buy 16 shirts or 17 shirts. And now, because of using the software that's been in existence since, I think, 1986, I think Margaret mentioned, the software is now being used almost to its full potential. That is because the county has realized, the employees have realized the importance of using the software. Soon the legislators will be able to go online and also monitor the budgets themselves. They can't change anything, but they can at least look at it and see where we're spending our money, how we're spending our money. But these are goals that have been set up. The training is an issue. Before, people were offered training but refused to go to training. That's not the case anymore. People are aggressively wanting to go to training, learning how to do it. There's software available out there for tax purposes that can also help the towns when it comes tax collection time. These are all things that the county is willing to do to make everybody's life much simpler. With regards to open transparency, our meetings are public. It's just one unfortunate thing, short of Mr. Rondinero and Mr. Hurley, not many people attend them. So I don't know what happens when people just don't have the interest or the desire to come to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie?
So I'd like to say the treasurer is elected to keep track of the monies that's being collected by the county. But the final responsibility goes to the legislature. And each year, the county auditors review the spending and the accounts, etc. And when that report goes first to the legislature, after the treasurer has seen it, goes to the legislature, they have a private meeting and they meet on it. And then they are to promise, basically, that they will make sure these corrections are made before the next year. And they're supposed to send in a letter suggesting what changes have been made, etc. It seems that there's not been a follow-up by this legislature every year. And next year, I've read last 3 audits, the same things are criticized. I don't know what Mr. Wyman was doing, but I think there has to be more communications between the legislature and the treasurer. There's one legislator I see out there, Mrs. Hastings. She'll tell you that when we were basically on the board, we had monthly reports from the treasurer's office. I personally would go down to that treasurer's office as a legislator and I would say, I would like to know how much is left of this account, because a budget is a living document. And once you pass it, it doesn't mean you have to spend everything in it. So you need to watch your spending. For example, they have overestimated sales tax by $600,000. What they do is at the end of the year, they draw back and say to the departments, all right, now you're going to have to cover within budget, which isn't fair to them. I also think that, closer, more business-like running of the county would be appropriate by our legislature, but you can't blame the treasurer for everything. And she needs to back up, or he needs to back up of the legislature to get the training, to hire enough people that are needed to do the job well. And I really think our auditors should be more firm, and when they make a report, help the county out, since we're paying them big bucks to do our audit, but be more efficient in saying how we can change things.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Okay, and Sylvia, we'll start with you. This is a question for the legislature. What can you say in support of your fellow legislative members if elected?
That's a great question. I've actually thought about this one because it was a big decision of whether I should run. I had a lot of support by a lot of people, including some of the legislators, that I should try and run even as a write-in. What I think is going on right now is that we have quite a few new legislators, and they're making good decisions. They're voting independently, and they're thoughtful. We will not all agree, but I think that that I will be able to work well with people who think independently and are willing to do the research. And I don't think that we're always going to be able to I don't think I will always be able to please everyone. But I think that if we can do this in a way where all of you have a seat at the table, where you're listened to respectfully, and that we work together as a team, as a legislature, that it ought to be able to be a functional, good county legislative board. And I think I could be a part of it. I see a lot of independence. I see a lot of good things happening with the legislature. I just think that it's time for some change. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil?
Again, the legislator as it currently operates is operating on a team position. Even though we have a Democrat on the who he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to his background in law, which then helps us make some good decisions because he sees things from a different perspective because of his background in both as a farmer and also as a lawyer in the past. And so he brings a lot to the table. As a whole, I was recently criticized tonight because of my voting record, but that's pretty much because everybody is in consensus on all the items that we do vote on. These are discussed in meetings before, so when it's time to vote, all the details are worked out. So you look at mine and look at other people, you can go back to Mrs. Hastings and Mrs. Franzese days. You'll see that a lot of times everybody voted together because there was consensus. So it's a good thing that we do have a good team approach. We respect one another, and I'm glad that respect was put in there because that's something that's lacking in today's world is respect. So enough said.
Thank you. Angie?
I have respect for all of our legislators. I don't disrespect any one of them, but I do feel that there should be more a change on the board because there's a need to be able to listen to the people, to be able to hear what's being said. For example, when the issue came up on the propane storage issue, we sat there in a meeting where, first of all, the legislators didn't let everybody into the room. Well, If I was there, I would have said, hey, wait a minute, there's an open meetings law. I'm going to request that we move this to a larger venue so that everybody can get in. And then we sat there and watched. Some people were busy doing things while the public were speaking. And I think they need to shape up, pay more attention to what is being said to them, be more welcome to the public, and make everybody feel that when they come to a meeting, get up and greet them, just don't say, look at them and say, what are you here for? But let everybody have a chance to speak. And I do think that, for example, when that vote came up that night, some of the legislators, it wasn't a total unanimous decision to support propane storage in Schuyler County. It was a divided vote. It was basically 4-4 to table it. And it should have been, in my opinion, I would have supported the tabling because a couple of new legislators claimed it was being rushed through by the chairman and that they wanted more time to study it. Well, everybody, if they want time to study an issue that important, they should have it. But then they called the vote through and the team put it through, and it was then 5-3. I don't know where that fifth vote came from, but it turned somebody's head right around quick. But I think we need to have more independent thinkers on there. I certainly am. My record shows that. When we worked together in the past, and especially when the county was deep in trouble, you needed those unanimous votes. When we did our studies, we didn't have a manager to go as a go-between. We did our research, we directly communicated with the treasurer's office, and we got ourselves, and I never forget my proudest day was when the auditors came in and said, Angie, and the board, I don't know how you did it, but you did it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, here's our third question. How do you feel about the percentage of budget that counts on sales tax? Or depends on sales tax, I think I would use the word, but Sylvia?
I have to say that when I came in from the parking lot, I heard someone yell across that they were going to ask that question. And I honestly don't know what the answer is. I have not studied the budget. I think it's a pretty insider question, and I leave it to these two.
Thank you. Phil?
Well, the records reflect that this is a phenomenal year and the sales tax is up 4%. Just because it's up 4% doesn't mean we should spend it. We shouldn't be looking at things and saying just because we're going to have 4% more or 5% more that we need to be spending it. Angie is very right when it talks about the fund balance. Over the last year or two, we've started to get our fund balance back into shape. We had a real tough time 2 years ago. It was a result of some changes in public assistance and child abuse and neglect cases where we had a different judge, and he put a lot of kids in foster care and detention facilities, which put us in the hole. And so we had to use up our fund balance to catch up. But just because we're having good years doesn't mean that the balloon is going to burst at some point. So we need to be careful with how we spend things and make sure that we're spending things appropriately. This new budget has over $1 million in it for highway improvements for next year, which are needed. We've neglected our roads and our infrastructure, and we need to start improving them because these are roads that everybody drives in. So we need to think about having more 5-year and 10-year plans so that we have a thing. We can't keep having septic systems along the lakes anymore. At some point in time, land is going to run out, and the state's mandates on septic systems are going to change. We have to start thinking about an infrastructure for the cottages and the homes along the lake. You have to be thinking down the road, but don't spend your money as you make it. That's poor budget. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to correct what Legislator Barnes said. I was at the meeting, the chairman reported that sales tax was up 6% over last year for the quarter. I corrected him quickly and said, Mr. Chairman, I remind you, overall for last year you were down $600,000. You better be up much higher than that if you're going to make it for the year. So again, but you've got to listen to how things are worded. 6% up for the quarter, and not for the whole year. And they're going to be, in my estimation, running for 2014, there's going to be at least a $200,000 to $400,000 shortage in sales tax. Now let me get back to answer the question. How do I feel sales tax influences the budget? Well, the budget It's one line item, as the chairman pointed out in the letter to the Odessa file. It's one line item, but it's a very important one because the legislature has total control over what goes into that line item. So if they're going to use that sales tax to balance a budget, and they see that in 2012 they were $600,000 short, and then for the next year they budget the same, 10.2, and for the next year, 2013, they come up $600,000 short again. I question why for the next year did they put $600,000 in there, okay? But they did. And what do you think they have in for 2015? 10.2 million again. I mean, mostly when you budget in the past, any legislator can tell you some budgeting is, you look at what you took in last year for sales tax, maybe the economy's not so good. So you look at what was taken in, and you say, all right, we'll keep it about the same. And they're right. They put 10.2 million in last year, so they're putting 10.2 million this year, but they were short 600,000. You know, so you need to say conservative budgeting of sales tax is important. Even if you're not a conservative, or you say you are, you need to look at these line items, very important, because then it builds a hole, like the chairman says. Last year there was $970,000 left after the whole budget was spent in the budget, and this year only 750, so it's going down. What happens in 2 years when they've used all what they can't balance within budget?
Thank you.
And they hit the fund balance.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I think we have enough time. We're going to do one more question. It's a two-parter, and I'm going to do the second part of it. Do you support shifting all legislative committee meetings, or at least the legislative resolution review committee meetings, to after working hours? Sylvia?
Thank you. This is part of the worst of what is happening with the legislature. I know that Bill Barnes had said that he doesn't understand this question about transparency, and you know, he talks about team positions, and those are two. I'm surprised he doesn't understand about transparency, and this team position is a scary idea too. So. All right, the whole thing about all the work gets done in the committees, we're all working when these committees are going on. And so what's happening right now in the legislature is that they will feel that this has been discussed in some committee meeting when we're not there, and then they come to the legislature at night and they bundle all of the resolutions in groups of threes. You have the title only, there's no explanation, and it's an up or down on those resolutions. The only time that there's any discussion, justification, is if a legislator pulls one of those resolutions out and says, I want to discuss it because I'm opposed to it. So that I sat there for the past 4 months, and I literally got the agenda, and I couldn't follow anything of what was going on. Even though I'm a journalist, I've covered government for many years, I understand government, this made no sense at all. So to answer the question, I don't know whether the committees should be streamed on the web or videoed. I don't know if they should be moved to at night. I think the important thing is to really figure out from our community what is going to serve them best. But we need a lot of changes, and we certainly, transparency comes from debating in public, of having you represented, and no longer bundling. We need to hear your justifications and your explanations. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil?
Well, I totally agree that we could have all night meetings. One of the reasons we don't have night meetings primarily is because of the courtesy to the staff, the employees of the county that have to appear at a lot of these meetings. But I totally agree, the LLRC could be held at night, any meeting could be held at night. Unfortunately, people just don't care. You can have meetings on Saturdays, you can have meetings on Thursday nights, Wednesday nights, Monday nights. People don't come out. There's a budget hearing tomorrow night, or not a hearing, but a budget meeting. If half you people are as interested as you are tonight, then I urge you to come to the meeting tomorrow night to listen to how the budget is being done and offer your opinions and ideas of where we could save money. But I guarantee you that not even 20 of you will show up tomorrow night. Please make me wrong, because we'd like to hear your thoughts. But I am the youngest legislator. I've been retired already. I'm the youngest one. Everybody else is retired. If I don't get reelected, one of these two are going to be the youngest members of the legislature then. It's just the way it is. It's not always right, but it's one of those things that takes a consensus of the people, the legislators, if they want to move something. I could sit there and say, I want to have the video thing like I have already. I can already tell you it's not going to happen. So, because there's not consensus amongst the remainder of them to spend the money. So the same thing would go if somebody wanted to say we want to have all our meetings at night. I don't know if it's going to fly. Mark, you've raised those questions many times. You've seen the frustration there is. And I totally support that. But we don't know. But once you have these meetings and people don't show up, it gets to be, why are we doing it? So town board meetings, short as town of Hector, nobody attends any town meetings other than occasionally over in Monterey, and if not, just in Hector. Town boards are poorly achieved, so thank you.
Thank you.
Next question?
Your turn. Same question.
Okay. Supporting meetings at night, I'd love to have that. I think it's the most important thing for citizens to be able to come out. Also, it would encourage more business people to run for the legislature because they're working in the day, so at night they could participate more. I think what Phil says, there's a lack of interest, isn't really true. It's they're working, they're busy. You're sitting in that room, but they're working. They can't get there. So if we allow them the time that they can, it would be much better. Also, when you have bundled resolutions, I agree, that is the worst thing. We used to pass them one by one, so that if any legislator got up and said, hey, you know, there's people present, they could know what the discussion was going on. But now when you sit there, I mean, it's done in like 15 minutes. I say to my husband, I'll go to the next meeting because it's over in 15 minutes. But in the public, you do get a half hour before the meeting, you're guaranteed that, and you get 15 minutes at the end to criticize or compliment legislators on what they're doing. But I think, again, more business people could get involved if the meetings were at night. And I do support having the meetings taped like the village does. They don't stream them live because that's expensive. But I can go on there anytime, go on their website, click on meetings, and there's a video. I can click on there, and I can sit and watch that whole meeting at home. So maybe somebody who's maybe a farmer or busy working in a neighboring county, they come home at night and they decide, well, I have time, they can go on there and watch how their village board is behaving and what they're doing for the community. And I think it adds a lot. I think you have to see less of the legislators sitting there texting, looking, shuffling papers, etc., but paying attention when they know they're on camera, and maybe there would be more discussion. And I would very hope to see it.
Thank you. Okay, it's a little bit under an hour, so we're going to do one more. I'm sorry, people. Okay, if we can't rescind the capability to store gas, what is the legislature able to do to make it safer for transportation and a clean lake?
Read the question.
Okay, I'm sorry I coughed. If we can't rescind the capability to store gas, what is the legislature able to do to make it safer for transportation and a clean lake?
That's a great question. So just a quick history of how we got this gas headed up there is that Dennis Fagan, as chair of the legislature, started working with DEC and other agencies in 2010, 2011, never asked us what we thought, and really has fought for gas storage up in Schuyler County. And I think that we should all be very angry about that. Because of that, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has already approved this the natural gas portion, and we're still fighting the propane. So we have two issues going on up there, natural gas and propane. So the thing is that the Schuyler County legislature cannot do anything to make this safe. I don't believe it can be done. I think that putting this gas in unlined salt caverns on the side of our lake is a ridiculous idea on so many levels, whether it's financial, whether it's the truck traffic, whether we're worried about catastrophe, whether we're going to give them such a tax break, there's no gain and all risk. So to ask the legislature, well, you know, we have to live with this thing, what are you going to do to make this safe? That is a ludicrous and backwards approach. We should still be fighting it. We should be telling the state that we don't want this. The only reason this corporation is doing this is because it's cheap. That we have holes in the ground and they think that this is a good solution because it's a corporation who wants to make money. But if they need to store that gas propane, or that they want to do something with natural gas, they need to move it away from the side of the lake and put it somewhere else where it will be safer. So I hear the question, and I don't think that there's a way to do this safely.
Thank you. Phil?
Well, I go back to my 40 years of being around here. I remember the one and only real bad propane truck in that accident, and that's because the guy fell asleep over in the town of Hector. As far as rescinding the resolution, the resolution means nothing. The whole process regarding the propane is totally up to the governor. It's tied up in politics. He won't make a decision. The federal government has voted in favor of, or not voted, but passed it, FERC. If you read the United States Senate recent report on fuel oil, they want to be totally clear by 2020 of OPEC. This is the agenda that the federal government is going towards. You need to read that state Senate report. This is just a small cog in the wheel with respect to what the government wants to happen. But as far as what Schuyler County says, and Angie and Pat, you can back me up on this, you passed hundreds of resolutions writing to the Congress, writing to the senators, the assemblymen, and you never even get a letter back saying thank you. You don't even get a form letter back. So our passing a resolution saying that we are against it or we're in favor of it really doesn't mean anything because we have no say in it. We're not controlling the licensing or the permit process. All we simply wanted is the governor to do something. Just like we've asked the governor hundreds of times to do something about unfunded mandates. So it's unfortunate that everybody gets so compassionate and upset about this, but our position really doesn't matter to the state of New York. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie?
I tend to disagree. As for the transportation making it safe in New York State, will basically be running those roads, and they'll have to be, I guess, the state police monitoring them, etc., checking their brakes and stuff. But I do think that the resolution should be rescinded by the Schuyler County Legislature. It was passed only 5-3. And since it wasn't given time for the legislators who wanted to study it further, I think it needs to be rescinded. I also think that I worked with the Association of Counties as their chairman, and we organized by getting everybody together. So now, if Schuyler County rescinds this, all the counties with Schuyler County as the lead, I would hope, would say, all right, let's get together, let's get a group. When individual citizens go to Albany, yes, it's fine, but they don't pay as close attention unless their own fellow government people in local government come out and say, we really think you should look this over. Our county is beautiful. Our tourism is our main industry here with farming and agriculture. I think you should find another spot for this. And I really think that the start should be rescinding the resolution. Then one legislator, if I'm there, I'd take that stand and I'd say, all right, let's go. I'd meet with Yates. All the other lake counties said no against it. And when in studying them, they said no because the public there said they didn't want it. So, you need to, once in a while, the public is still outcrying to Schuyler County, and they need to basically look at that again and get something done. And like I said, I would like to see a group go to Albany of county legislators, village people, town people. They would wake them up a little bit. Maybe he'd think twice if this area isn't really happy or made for that type of storage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And now for your closing remarks. And we'll reverse the order. You have 2 minutes for your closing remarks. Angie, would you like to come up here?
Thanks, Judy. With the cost of living on the rise and property assessments being increased twice over the last 3 years, we can no longer be satisfied with the status quo of tax and spend. This year, 35 Schuyler County properties were taken for taxes and auctioned off. 670 properties are listed as unpaid taxes. Look at the review today. Our community, this is our home. No one should, young or old, be forced to sell their homes or live in the fear of having their home or business taken for property taxes. My platform basically is protecting our environment, solid business growth, and solid financial decisions. I am a fiscal conservative, endorsed by the Conservative Party of Schuyler County. The incumbent says or advertises that he is a fiscal conservative, but his voting record certainly does not bear that out. It has only contributed to the county's fiscal woes. We all know that the incumbent legislator didn't hear the people and voted for gas storage in Schuyler, when all other Lake counties and the village of Watkins Glen opposed it. And like the incumbent, I listen and I hear, and I would pledge to protect our environment and keep our water and lake clean. The important people on election day are the voters. You will decide the course for Schuyler County over the next 4 years. If you want things to change, do something about it. Get out, vote on November 4th. You'll find me on the conservative line and on the independent line, we the people. Again, I like helping people, and I'll make sure you know how to reach me. And I welcome your input at any time. Just feel free to call or email me, and I'll make sure if I am elected that everybody will have that publicly the day after election in the paper. May God bless you and your families, and I thank the League again.
Thank you. Phil?
Thank you. Just quick point. Why did Schuyler County, out of all these other counties, towns, and villages, vote in favor of it? It's because we studied it. We've done our homework. We did tours. We visited other sites. We talked to engineers. We've read documentation. Read the minutes. Alan, you taught me the best. Foil those requests from other towns, counties, and villages. You will find they listen to one side, short of Yates County, who recently said maybe we ought to look at the other side, but nobody else has ever looked at both sides of the situation. They formed an opinion based on one side. Now, you heard people about listening and doing research and stuff. How come nobody's asked Tompkins County, who recently passed it? How come nobody else has asked Seneca County, how much research have you done? If so, show me the proof. Enough said about the gas storage. We've done our homework. We're proud of the fact that we've done our homework. I can't help it that some of these legislators have only been here, but since I've been on 4 years ago, we've been talking about it ever since then. It's getting to be old hat. We need to move on and worry about things like Balboa and other things like that, ISIS, things like that. We need to start focusing on that. Marcia, you've been involved in that this week. It's a concern. So these are the things that we need to start doing. I want to thank the League for having us. Angie, a quick question. What happened in the 10 years before you turned things around when you were on the legislature that got you into that situation back then and you changed? And I appreciate that, but it's a question that I've been countlessly asked. But I don't want to sit here and debate, but I just want to say thank you. I spend my money in this country. I don't travel outside this country, and I plan on being here. My record of attendance and meetings has been very well. I don't take vacations, as my wife can attest to, and because I take things seriously with my job. Thank you.
Can I answer this question?
Thank you. No, please. This is not a debate. It's a forum.
Then I would have left with a question for him, too.
No. Well, and I'm sure that after you may have a conversation with some of the members of the audience and be very glad to listen to you. But this is our forum and this is the way we run it. Sylvia?
Thank you. I'm delighted that this is the conclusion. So I heard a lot of interesting things tonight, and this is what I would like to leave you with, is that what I heard, and I think that maybe you heard too, is that we have a legislator who really doesn't think that you care, and doesn't think that you're going to attend meetings, and doesn't care if the committee meetings really are there because you don't care. And I don't believe that, and I don't think that you're sitting here because you believe that either. So what and the whole thing about the defensiveness about the gas storage is quite interesting. That to take such a position when you have your constituency so firmly against it is pretty mind-boggling. And one of the things that Dennis Fagan wrote in a letter to Yates legislature last week is he said that that the primary election between Phil Barnes and Angie Franzese was proof, because Phil Barnes won by 60%, it was actually probably 57%. Because he won, that proved that there was a mandate for gas storage in our county. And, you know, that was just so astounding on so many levels, because for one thing, it was just the math. So if we had 107 or 109 votes, Dennis Bacon actually locked out more people, 128 people out of the courtroom than voted for Phil Barnes. So I think that they need to listen to the people. I think that they need to listen to you. And I swear, if I'm in there, that's who I am. I will listen to you. I will open up government. I will meet with people, and it will be transparent. That is what I firmly believe in. I ask for your vote. You write in at the bottom of the column, Sylvia Fox, easy name, Fox, F-O-X, and I thank the league.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank our candidates for the District 6. If you want to wait just a minute, I've got a wrap-up that I'd like to give, and then you can leave and they can all talk.